Where are we going on the next Celtic Invasion Vacation? Listen and also enjoy some music related to the invasion. Plus, you'll learn what you can expect to experience when you join an invasion. It's Pub Songs and Stories show number 258. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. This is the virtual public house for musicians to share the stories and inspiration behind their music with your host, Marc Gunn. Subscribe to the podcast at pubsong.com. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. I am Marc Gunn. This is usually the audio liner notes for the songs I record and play, but a little bit different today. The show is brought to you by my Gunrunners on Patreon. If you enjoy this podcast and my music, please join the club. You'll get 2 to 3 podcasts per month. You'll be able to download songs featured in the show, get sheet music, and access to Coffee with the Celtfather video concerts. You get a lot for just a little, just $5 per month, and you can save 15% with an annual membership. Thanks to the newest gunrunner on Patreon, Cecilia. Thank you so much for joining my patrons. So what is new? Well, this is a bonus episode. I finally settled on where we're going to go for the next Celtic Invasion Vacation in 2023. I looked at Galicia in Spain, the Wicklow Mountains, south of Dublin, Ireland, and Westport in County Mayo, Ireland. And the winner is Westport in County Mayo. I don't have any details about the trip, nor have I opened it up to the public. I'm hoping to do that in a week or so. I'm going to spend the next month working those details out, but there are a few things I want to explore while we are there. First, County Mayo was the home of Grace O'Malley, and she was known as the Pirate Queen of Ireland. A quick search revealed that there were not many records of her. However, there are some letters that were exchanged with Queen Elizabeth I, which show a sort of mutual admiration for each other and 2 strong women in a time of men. And I'm going to research a bit more about the Pirate Queen to see what we can find in that area and see if we can visit some of it. To give you a small taste of Grace O'Malley, the Gothard sisters have a song inspired by Grania, as she is often called. The song is called Grace O'Malley. It's from their album Mountain Rose, and I want to share that song with you right now.
Shoes to wear to look like one of the men. Her father, he made fun. Oh no, what have you done? I know you'd love to come, my dear, but Grace, you're far too young. And he said, no woman sails the sea. They won't become weaker than me. Stay here, be safe on Erin's shore. Just listen here to me. You, it cannot be. There are dangers out on the sea. Stay here, be safe on Erin's shore. Just listen here to me. The waves beneath her feet. Her father stood beside her, laughing at his own defeat. She watched the cannon and the gun jump the stairs, and then the captain roared a warning. All hands on deck, my men. Get down below, my lass, he said. This danger too shall pass. My men and I will defend the ship, and you will be safe at last. She climbed the rigging and the mast looked behind, and then a man behind her father came, a pirate with dagger in hand. She leapt down from the mast, her crack alerted the crew. Onto the pirate's back she fell before he ever knew. There was an answer to their prayers, victory was theirs. She saved the ship from pirates and she saved her father's crew. And then he said, this woman sails the sea, she won't become weaker than you. She is the pride of Erin's shore.
One of my regular invaders, Jim, once said that what he enjoyed about our trips is that there are frequently different types of travel that we do, meaning we might not just take a car the whole time. We might take a boat or a train. So I'm always looking out for something cool like that for at least one day, and happily, Clare Island is nearby. I honestly know very little about Clare Island, although it sounds like Grace O'Malley spent a little time there as well. But what I do know about it is that the Saw Doctors have a fantastic song called Clare Island, and it makes me excited to see it. That's all I know so far, so visit CelticInvasion.com if you want to find out more when it is open to the public. Meantime, upcoming shows this week, September 28th through October 2nd, I'll be at ALEP in Shakertown, Kentucky, with the Brobdingnagian Bards, no less. October 8th, Ironshield Brewing in Lawrenceville, Georgia. October 14th through 16th, I'll be at MultiVerse in Atlanta. And November 4th through 6th, I'll be at Conjuration here in Atlanta. And I'm also going to do a quick run by to the Irish Fest Atlanta on November 4th. They are doing a festival then, and it's and Alton will be there on November 4th. I think Lunasa will be there on November 5th. I'm not performing there, but I'm going to go visit, so you might see me in that area. I'm going to share a replay from the Celtfather Unkilted podcast. I noticed after publishing that episode last month that there was one thing that was a little bit not correct, and that is the requirement of a vaccination card. I recorded this at the beginning of the year, and it took me a long time to get it out. So that information was required earlier this year, but I'm not going to require it at present, though the sentiment is still valid. So these trips are very small, and your fellow invaders should be treated like family, meaning you don't want to get your family sick. I do expect that you will get vaccinated if you join the trip as needed to protect your family, but I am not requiring your vaccination card as proof. So I'm going to trust you if you want to come join us. All right. What can you expect on a Celtic Invasion vacation? Here we go. Celebrate Celtic culture and music through travel. I'm going to tell you what you can expect on my Celtic Invasion vacations. So if you go to CelticInvasion.com, you won't find much information about my Celtic Invasion vacations. I usually list the itinerary when it becomes available, but that can be January or March. This year, it doesn't look like it's going to be till May. So you will find podcasts and links to pictures and videos. I don't know that any of it really paints a good picture. So I thought I would try to break down how these trips work to help you decide if you want to join me in the future. Celtic Invasion vacations are not your typical travel tour experience. Most tourists travel on big buses. They go place to place. You stay up late. You get up early. There's 30, 60, or even 90 people packed on 1 to 3 tour buses. And if you're like me, that sounds pretty miserable. My first 2 trips were on a tour bus. Everyone was a fan of my music, so that was pretty awesome. The bus drivers also, they were just spectacular. But that's a lot of people for an introvert like me. And I don't know how much of the fatigue was from so many people or the staying up late and getting up early business. But it's not my preferred way of traveling in general. I like small groups. My mom, she traveled to Italy in 1985. She moved there. So I've gone back and forth to Europe for a long time. And my mother is an awesome adventurer. I went to school on an American military base in Vicenza for my senior year of high school. And while all the other high school seniors went to Rimini to go get drunk, my mom and I went on an artistic pilgrimage following the works of Piero della Francesca. She instilled in me the value of planning as well as spontaneity. You see that in my Celtic Invasion vacations itinerary. When I finally make one, that is. Typically, I don't have a full itinerary when I announce the latest trip. I have ideas. In fact, I usually have one big idea, then I find a way to make it work. One person told me he was disappointed when my trip to the Highlands of Scotland a few years back did not also include the Isle of Skye, like it was initially listed on the early itinerary. And that again was because I had a big idea and I didn't quite realize where the Isle of Skye was. But when we finally settled on the details, I realized it was impractical and I didn't notify people. I learned from that error. If I make a big change to what it was planned, you are welcome to back out. I don't usually settle on solid itineraries until December or January. I just don't have enough details to make a solid decision. This year, for instance, I had laid down some plans in March, and then everything changed when I was notified that the place that we were staying was no longer accepting residents. So things happen. Now, of course, this might make some people uncomfortable, especially when you're putting down up to maybe $3,000 plus air travel to join me. The adventure is worth it. The great thing about traveling on the Celtic Invasion Vacation, in my opinion, is that it is a small group, and that means maximum flexibility for adventure. So let's answer some questions. When are the Celtic Invasion Vacations? This can always vary, but typically I run my trips in early June, sometimes late May. This seems to be the best time to travel to Ireland and Scotland. People talk about the rain in Ireland. The early June period seems to invariably have one of the lightest rainfalls ever. It's just perfect. How long is each trip? Celtic Invasion Vacations are about 7 days long. The trips are officially scheduled from Saturday to Saturday, and that's because that's how long most vacation rentals book. But I'm not going to be taking you to 7 hotels in 7 days. We stay in one place most of the week. If the vacation rental is more than a couple hours from the airport, or there's something cool to see closer, we might stay in a hotel nearer to the airport or that other location for the last night of the invasion. It just depends on how soon everyone on the trip has booked their departure. When should I arrive? I usually ask invaders to arrive the day before the trip. That way you can recover from jet lag and adjust to the time change. I still remember one of my invaders sleeping on the drive across Ireland because she flew in that morning. So it just seems just not a good idea. But that also allows us to leave first thing in the morning on Saturday to drive to the vacation rental if we arrive before the trip. While it is recommended, it is not required. As long as you arrive by 11 a.m. on Saturday, we will adjust. You are also responsible for the hotel on Friday night, but you might find a roommate with other invaders if you need that. When should I depart? Again, it's up to you. I prefer you to set your departure after noon on Saturday. You can stay as long as you want, though. I usually leave on Sunday after the trip is over. How do you select the destinations? Destinations are chosen by invaders and, of course, me. I usually have an idea of a place I want to see, so I look for a suitable vacation spot. But sometimes I ask for suggestions from invaders. Our trip to Brittany and Cornwall were both chosen because some regular invaders wanted to visit all 7 Celtic nations. Of course, I get the final say, and if I get enough people to attend one of these more remote spots, I may make adjustments. Once we settle on a big destination, the next step is figuring out the generalized itinerary. Is there downtime? Yes. This is not an intense, constantly moving tour. Celtic Invasion Vacations are about relaxation, adventure, and fun, and of course music, and how much can be up to you. There's usually at least one day where we are near to the cottage and take it easy. We explore the local town. Wednesdays have the option of a little extra downtime for those who need it. How do you choose the itinerary? You can't really make an itinerary until you know where you're going, right? Well, the challenge for me is that I need to know the exact place we are staying to figure out where our itinerary will go. My next step is to start researching vacation rentals. I look for rentals in our destination area that hold between 8 to 12 people, sometimes more, but that's pushing it. I want it to look nice, comfortable, and easily accessible. In fact, I want the majority of the cool stuff that we will explore to be within 30 minutes of where we are staying. Once I know the exact location, I can plan the itinerary. What does the typical itinerary look like? So the first day of the trip involves driving to our destination. We need at least one interesting place to stop along the way, maybe 2 if you include lunch. When we arrive, we need groceries. I confess there's something extra fun about going to a grocery store in Europe. Some of our invaders join me for a shopping experience as we load up on breakfast and some dinner supplies. I make dinner for the first night. Typically, it's my secret pasta recipe. That evening is usually concluded with a little music by me. The second day is usually a good day to stay local, so we explore 1 or 2 of the cool things that are nearby. We try to spend time out of the car, walk around. It's good to stretch our legs after traveling. On either the second or third day, I like to bring in a tour guide if possible. My trips are not geared around tours, but local guides are great for adding a little bit of history, culture, and legends to the experience. So if I can make it happen, I will do that. Guides are also good at giving us a local perspective of things we should check out that are not necessarily on our itinerary. In Brittany, we found some cool cairns that were not on our original itinerary. In Cornwall, we got an overview of Tintagel and found some standing stones I would have never found. In Wales, Willem Morris shared the incredible legends of Merlin and introduced us to an eco-resort hidden in the mountains. In Donegal, we found some great restaurants and a former passage tomb. Again, wouldn't have happened if we didn't have those guides. So that frequently helps if I can make it happen. Around day 3, we're ready for a different travel experience, and that's when I try to get us out on the water or on a train, something to shake up the feel of the trip. Day 4 is the midweek break. Again, we stay local. Some choose to relax in our cottage. Others explore something that's new, that's local in the area. We might drive around specific areas. It really just depends. Day 5 usually takes us on a long adventure. We'll get in the van and drive further to see something outside of our main region. This gives us a nice look at other regions nearby. It also adds to the fun adventure. Day 6 is intentionally left open most of the time. We usually find something cool by this time that we might not have realized before the trip began, or perhaps a guide or local we met had a recommendation. That's when we take the advice of others to explore something different. The final day is usually spent fairly local. It's time for a last-minute exploration of our area, or sometimes, again, if we were traveling back towards the airport, we'll find something in the new region to explore. The final day is usually spent pretty local. It's time for the last-minute exploration of our area. Sometimes we pack up and make our way towards the airport. 1 or 2 bonus destinations end up on the final day. It just kind of varies. What makes a Celtic Invasion vacation different from other tours? I like to stress that Celtic Invasion vacations are not tours. They are indeed vacations. I want my invaders to feel relaxed and happy by the end of the trip, not exhausted like I was on my first 2 trips to Ireland. You should be energized and excited for the next Celtic Invasion experience. How many people join the invasion? The number can vary, but I usually aim for between 8 to 12 invaders. Too many people and I start having trouble finding restaurants to eat at. And even 12 is pushing it. So yeah, I think 8 is like the ideal number, but it just depends what kind of place we can find. What personal papers are needed for traveling on a Celtic Invasion vacation? You do need a passport. It's usually good to get your passport at least 90 days out. I would suggest applying for one a minimum of 6 months before you depart. But there are some expedited services that can get them sooner. Just plan ahead. You do not need a visa. You don't need an international driver's license either. In fact, your regular driver's license is just fine if you plan to drive in Europe with any car company. Make sure you bring that at the very least. But of course, driving on the invasion is usually done by me. Since the pandemic, you will need a vaccination card. Invasions are like family vacations. We want to take care of our fellow invaders. So your COVID vaccination card is essential for my trip and a lot of European travel. I just want to make sure that everyone is safe. How much do Celtic Invasion vacations cost? That varies year to year. I would say in general it's going to be about $2,800 up to $3,000 for the land part of the trip for each person. It could be lower, but just plan on that. It does not cover the cost of air travel. You handle your own airline tickets. Your fee covers your housing for a full week. That's for a shared room, either a double if you're in a couple, or 2 singles, depending on our housing. It may cost extra to get a single room by yourself. Your fee covers a breakfast every day and dinner at least 5 times. Often I cover more than that. Sometimes it works well to make lunches if we're not planning to be near a restaurant. So I happily pay for lunch supplies if we need those. But in general, you are responsible for your lunch. You can have what you like for breakfast each morning. Some days we have a full breakfast with eggs, bacon, yogurt, fruit, cheese, whatever you want. Grocery shopping usually happens on the first day, so whatever you need, we can probably find it. Other days, if we want to get going early, then we might have a continental breakfast with just breads, cheese, yogurt, or fruit. And yes, there is coffee every morning, and tea too. I personally need my coffee. I cook dinner at least 2 days during the week. We have my world famous secret pasta meal, and then there's the Celtic Invasion specialty, which is Prince Charlie Secret. It's a recipe we picked up a few years ago and is now a tradition on the invasions. There may be more than 2 meals, but of course we like to eat out too. The toughest thing about dining on the Celtic Invasions is finding a place to eat. If the group is under 9 people, that's usually not too difficult. But if we have more than that, it can be a real challenge. I plan ahead for that because who doesn't like to eat out in Europe? I consider that a big part of the experience. Is there music? Well, at least twice a week, there definitely is. We spend the evening relaxing at our college with dinner and music. I am, of course, host of the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, so the podcast music will be playing frequently. But I'm also a musician. I play Celtic music with a sci-fi drinking songs twist. I call it sci-fi-Irish music. You can hear my music through my website at celtfather.net. I plan to play, again, at least twice a week, for at least an hour. But a lot of it depends on you and how excited you are to hear some music. If we're really lucky, you might bring an instrument too. Then we can have an Irish session with songs and tunes afterwards. And if we're really fortunate, I will find a musician or bring in a musician to come play for us. And that's frequently difficult to pull off, but when it happens, it's absolutely amazing. When does our day begin and end? So breakfast is usually around 7:30 or 8 a.m. with a departure, 8:30 or 9 a.m. Just depends on what kind of day we're going to have. It's nice to have a leisurely morning. We don't want to rush off and do too much, but we do have to, everything is made by me in the breakfast department. So we have to get things going, got to get cleaned up and such before we can head out. So that's something that usually takes a little bit of time, but again, we try to get out by 9 a.m. at the latest, absolute latest. We don't usually do too much in the evenings. Usually we'll have dinner, but since Irish sessions usually don't begin until 9 p.m., it's not something we usually attend outside of our cottage session. But if it's something that you want to do, we might be able to make it happen. It's just, a lot of it's going to be dependent on the moment. And sometimes there may be one late evening where we will do something like that, but usually not much more than that. How old is too old? How young is too young? I've had people ages 18 on into their 70s on my Celtic Invasion vacations. I'd say the vast majority are in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, but I don't really think much about it because I adjust each trip to who's on it. In 2019, a younger group hiked up Skellig Michael in Ireland while the less physically able landed on the Greater Blasket Island by boat. The physically active walk, hike, and run ahead if so they desire. Those who aren't, take it at their own speed. The Isle of Skye was one of the few places we went where it was better to be physically active. Yet, there's a lot of hiking on that island. But I don't think anyone's vacation fun was hindered by being less physically active. We had quite a few people who could not go to the top of Old Man Store. As for younger folks, I typically don't prefer to have kids on the trip, though in 2022, my family is coming sort of, to be on the trip. I know the challenges associated with that, but I'm willing to consider it as long as you feel the kids are up to getting up and going. One lady asked about a teenager, and I think I might be open to teenager a bit more if they're independent and still willing to follow the rules. How do we travel? Typically, we travel in a van. These are usually 9-seaters with lots of luggage space. Sometimes we will add a second van or a car to carry extra invaders. And speaking of luggage, we do have limited space. I find that 1 suitcase per person is plenty, plus a carry-on. You typically don't need more. There's usually laundry facilities too, if you really need it. So you can always wash something extra. There's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube where you can learn about how to travel light. If you truly need an extra suitcase, that's fine, but your experience is so much better when you just travel light. You don't need much. I used to carry my computer all the time, and now my phone is my computer, and that's all I really need. How do you sign up? The first step is for me to open up the invasion to the public. You see, former invaders get first dibs. Once it's public, here's what you do. First, email an application form to me. Second, send me a check for your deposit. that reserves your spot on the invasion. You have to send it within 2 weeks of emailing your application form. Finally, just send me your final payment before the deadline and you're golden. Speaking of your final payment, you are welcome to break it up into multiple payments if you want or can't pay all at once. I'm happy to work with you to make this trip happen. How do I cancel if I need to? First off, I have a $400 non-refundable deposit, though there is a caveat for the non-refundable part. If I change the dates, you can get a refund. If you can find someone to take your spot or someone willingly takes your spot, then you can get a refund. However, if you're sick or turned away by an airline or country, I can't offer a refund. Typically 30 to 60 days before the trip. Once I start paying for things like our housing, vans, tour guides, whatever, I can no longer offer a refund. That usually starts about the time of the Celtic Invasion deadline. Now, I am not a corporation, so there may be flexibility. My goal here is to have people sign up and then not drop a month later. That happened on my first Celtic Invasion. So if you want to go, make a commitment with a non-refundable deposit. All right, all in all, Celtic Invasion Vacations are about happily experiencing the fun, culture, history, and legends of one small but magical location. And I hope you'll consider joining me on the next Celtic Invasion Vacation. Sign up to my mailing list at CelticInvasion.com so you don't miss out on this incredible adventure. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Send it to CelticInvasion@gmail.com. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to finish up with a recording of Star of the County Down. This was released originally on show number 255, Conjuration, from Renfest to Sci-Fi Conventions, and you can download the song as an MP3 when you join my Gunrunners Club on Patreon. You'll find it in the show notes for this episode. And you can also find the song that I recorded with Jamie Hauser on our album, How America Saved Irish Music. Here's Star of the County Down.
To Pembridge town in the county down one morning last July. Down a boring green came a sweet Colleen. She smiled as she passed me by, but she looked so sweet from her 2 bare feet to the sheen of her nut brown hair. Such a coaxing elf, sure I shook myself to make sure I was really there. Entry Bay up to Daddy K, from Galway to Dublin town.
Yeah, County Down is on the other side of Ireland, but whatever. I didn't have a star of the County Mayo song available, so. What are you doing while listening to Pub Stories? I'd love your thoughts and feedback. So take a picture of yourself, where you are, or maybe send a picture of your trip to Ireland, post it on social media, use the hashtag Pub Stories so I can share it when I find it. Thanks for listening to Pub Songs and Stories. The show is produced by Marc Gunn, edited by Mitchell Peterson, with graphics by Miranda Nelson Designs. You can subscribe and listen to the regular show wherever you find podcasts. You can subscribe to my mailing list. You will get regular updates of new music, podcast special offers, and you'll enjoy more stories behind several of my most popular songs. And of course, please tell a friend about the podcast. Word of mouth is the absolute best way to support any creative endeavor. Have fun and sing along at pubsong.com.